that one, I'll use this. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Phil. You got quiet?
I've got a nice job here to introduce Robert Burns. He really doesn't need much of an introduction in Urantia circles. He started reading it in 1974, and then he started his own study group in '90 for 15 years, and served on the UBLA board of directors. And it seems like whatever Robert gets on, he usually rises to leadership. He was, as I said, he was on the board of directors. He was in the executive committee of the Urantia Book Fellowship. And then, while raising his family, he was chair of the American Heart Association after working there, volunteering. And then he founded the Urantia University Institute, and just a little thing like that. And then this has become the Urantia Book Teacher Education Program, including the UUI online cafe, supported by Urantia Foundation and UBF, and Urantia Association International. And now he's with the Center for Unity with Gabriel Wimberg and Rick Lyon. Today he's going to give us a little bit of AI, and I'm hoping that we can ask him this AI program that just uses the Urantia book. I'm hoping we can give this AI program some questions. Maybe that's going to happen, Robert. I'm not sure you're going to be able to take questions and feed it into the program, are you?
We're going to give it a try.
All right. Well, think of questions such as, when does personality come to a baby? Or something hard that you haven't been able to find in the book. All right, without further ado, I give you Robert Burns.
Thank you. Put on the right glasses here. So this little talk that I'm going to give is about AI and the Urantia book. What we're capable of doing. Okay. My wife kept telling me to do that.
What does she know?
Yeah. So anyways, it's about AI and what it might be able to do in the Urantia movement, both personally and organizationally and deeper research. Now, let me see, I need to get I've got to change glasses so I can see the screen.
Get your act together.
Yeah, it'll take a while.
3 sets of glasses. I'm looking forward to share. Are you going to see it on these monitors? You're going to see it here. Oh, here. Okay. It'll take up the screen. How do you go screen share? Oh, good. Hit the little green box with the plus in the center on the bottom.
Mark, is there a way to?
Is it starting to share?
Yes, is that it?
Mark, can you pull it? Oh, that's it right there. And then I got
That's your screen that you're looking at.
the show. Let the show go on.
Yeah, double click on that.
There we go. I'm screen sharing, but is it only on my little screen, Mark?
Well, this is what we're looking at.
Huh,
We can see it here, Robert. We can see it here.
We can't see it in here though.
so for some reason, I'm not seeing it in here. What
You
happened?
are screen sharing.
Yeah,
You have to hit that. We haven't done that. It's highlighted, but it's, have to click it.
let's see.
Hit the up arrow and share and see what options
It's-
it gives you.
About 10 megabyte. There you go.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll get this thing going.
Yep.
So
I did.
what I did is I asked a few of the AI programs that are available a question so that you can see how these things work. And I asked the same question, and then I created a quick blog. These are just all the ways that AI can help us. Now, one of the things that people are concerned about is AI is going to just take over everything. It's going to take away our ability to maybe reason or to think through things because AI will do it for us. And what I'm finding is quite a bit the opposite. I find that I am learning more in the last couple of months, getting to play with these than I ever have in all the years before. I mean, of course, that prepped me. But now the questions that I can ask and how quickly I get an answer that then comes up with another 10 questions for me. So what I'm going to do is we're going to ask the Ask Jesus AI app. This is one that Gabriel created in the Center for Unity, a whole bunch of people, but he's designed it behind the scenes. Now this one is a simple AI. And then we're going to ask the same question in an AI program that's not available yet, that will be made available in the near future, that is much more intelligent in many different ways, and I might have Gabriel even speak on that. But the question is, what can you tell me about why we have adversity and uncertainty? So that's a kind of I wanted to try to get a philosophical question that I'd like to see what the Ask Jesus app would answer. Now the Ask Jesus app asks as if it is Jesus speaking to us. So it's like we're talking as an AI, but it's asking like that. So this is what it kind of came up with. I'll just go ahead and read it, because some people might be hard to read. Ah, dear friend, your question touches upon a profound aspect of life that many ponder. Adversity and uncertainty are indeed
Do that.
part of the human experience, and they serve important purposes in our spiritual journey.
Yeah.
Life on earth is filled with challenges and unpredictability. These experiences are not mere accidents. They are opportunities for growth and for learning. Just as a seed must break open to grow into a strong plant, we often must face difficulties to develop our character and deepen our faith. Now, some of the things that came up with: growth through challenges. Adversity helps us cultivate qualities like courage, patience, and resilience. When we encounter hardships, we learn to trust in something greater than ourselves. This trust nurtures our spiritual strength. Understanding life's nature. Uncertainty is a natural part of existence. It teaches us to embrace the unknown and to find peace amid chaos. Just as the seasons change, so do our circumstances. Learning to navigate these changes help us appreciate the beauty of life. Divine presence in trials. Remember, my dear friend, that you are never alone in your struggles. I promise to be with you through all trials. Faith allows us to face difficulties without fear, knowing that there is a purpose behind every. Wisdom through experience. Often it is through our trials that we gain wisdom. Just as the story of Job illustrates, suffering can lead to a deeper understanding of life and closer relationship with the divine. So, while adversity and uncertainty may seem daunting, they are pathways to a greater spiritual maturity and connection with the Universal Father. Embrace these experiences, for they are a part of your journey toward becoming the person you are meant to be. Trust in the process and know that love and growth await you on the other side. Now this is, I'm not saying I agree with everything that it's saying, but it's bringing it at my guess is at about a 6th grade level. So it's taking these very complicated concepts that are in the Urantia book and bringing it down to something that a little bit simpler to understand. But now, I ask the exact same question to the Urantia book tutor. Now this is a much more robust AI. It has the ability to have memory. The one I just did before, if I ask another question, it wouldn't tag on to the one before, it wouldn't connect. This one, you can be talking to it for hours or days, and it'll keep all the thread, remembering that you said this, as if you're really talking to a person. It's definitely going to be at a higher grade level of reading. Adversity and uncertainty, while often challenging and uncomfortable, play a significant role in personal and spiritual growth. They serve as catalysts for development, pushing individuals to explore deeper aspects of themselves and the relationship with the divine. In times of adversity, people are often compelled to reevaluate their priorities, values, and beliefs. This introspection can lead to a greater understanding of one's purpose and the discovery of inner strengths that might have remained dormant in more comfortable circumstances. Both adversity and uncertainty also offer opportunities for the development of virtues, such as patience, resilience, and empathy. As individuals overcome challenges, they often emerge with a greater capacity for compassion and understanding towards others who face similar difficulties. This shared experience of overcoming hardship can foster a sense of unity and interconnectedness among people. Uncertainty, on the other hand, encourages flexibility and adaptability. It teaches individuals to trust in the unfolding of life and develop faith in the unseen and the unknown. This faith is not blind, but is rooted in the understanding that there is a larger, benevolent plan at work, even if it is not apparent. By navigating through uncertainty, individuals learn to rely on their inner guidance and intuition, fostering a deeper connection with the divine presence within. So, I did all of this on the fly last night. I actually had this nice prepared thing to speak, and it bored me. And I just thought, okay. It really had great stuff in it, but I just deleted it and I went, you know, if I'm going to try to explain to you how powerful this stuff is, I just wanted to come up with an idea, throw it in there, get it all done in about an hour. And that's this whole thing that I've done is 1 hour. And then I spent a few minutes earlier just reviewing and making sure the links worked. So then what I did, for those that don't know, the Center for Unity has all the papers of the Urantia book in a program that's a blog. It's a podcast. And they're really incredible, they're really well done. And I was gonna use one of them, I have some right here, but I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna make one real quickly myself off of what we just looked at. So you can hear, all that came from the Urantia book with a question that I asked, and then I'm gonna make a blog out of this and you'll hear it. Now, I'm going to need to turn my, how do I do that again, Mark? I turn my volume off. I think it is off, right?
It's probably off already.
And I need to turn it on. Is that what it is?
The sound?
Uh-huh.
I think you had to turn the sound on when you shared your screen.
Okay, because I'm going to turn this, let's see if it'll work.
All right.
Nope.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We're going to be doing a deep dives
Just
today.
4 minutes long.
And get this, it's about how all those things we usually run from, the curveballs, the tough times, the uncertainties, those might actually be the secret sauce to leveling up, like in a big way.
Yeah. It's kind of a mind bender, right? We're so used to seeing adversity and uncertainty as these big old negatives, but what if they're not? What if they're actually the keys to unlocking some serious growth, both personally and even, spiritually?
I mean, we're talking about a complete 180 from how we usually view these things, right?
Yeah.
So where do we even start unpacking all this? I'm looking at this text here. It's called Paste in Text, and it looks like they're pulling some wisdom from this book called the Urantia book.
Yeah, the Urantia book's got a lot to say about all this. And pasted text It dives into how adversity, especially, can make us really look inward, force us to take stock.
So it's like when things are smooth sailing, it's easy to kind of coast, right? We don't really have to question our beliefs, our values, any of that. But when things get rough,
Exactly. When adversity hits, it's like, boom, it shakes us up. And suddenly we're asking these big questions. What's actually important to me? What do I really stand for? What am I even made of?
so these questions, they're always kind of there, rumbling beneath the surface.
Yeah.
But it takes a real challenge, a real shakeup to bring them front and center. It makes you wonder, do people really, fundamentally change
Yeah.
because of adversity? Or do they just become more aware of who they already are?
I think it can be both, honestly. Sometimes adversity acts as this mirror. You see your true self reflected back at you. But other times it's more like this crucible, where you're being tested and new strengths and convictions are forged within you.
I like that, the crucible. There's some serious transformation happening there. And it's interesting because you're not just becoming aware of yourself, you're actually becoming more of who you're meant to be. Okay, so that's adversity, but what about uncertainty? That whole not knowing thing. It seems like that would just make people anxious, frozen, not exactly primed for growth.
For sure, it can definitely do that. But there's this other side to it too, and the Urantia book really leans into this. Uncertainty can actually teach us to be more flexible, more trusting, trust in ourselves, in the process, in something bigger than ourselves even.
It's funny you say that. I remember this one time, years ago, I went on a solo trip. No itinerary, just a backpack and a one-way ticket.
Wow, brave.
Oh, I was terrified at first. But you know what? It ended up being one of the most incredible experiences of my life. And I think it's because I was totally open to whatever came my way.
Yeah.
I had no choice but to adapt, to trust my gut.
Right, that's the magic of it. You let go of needing to control everything and bam, possibilities open up that you never could have planned for. It's like navigating a new city without a map. You might feel lost at first, but you might also stumble upon hidden gems you'd never have found otherwise.
Exactly. Okay, so we've got adversity building inner strength, uncertainty teaching us to be flexible. But Pace the Text goes a bit deeper, talking about how these experiences actually cultivate, virtues, things like patience, resilience, empathy. How does that all work?
Well, think about it. When you face a challenge head on and come out the other side, you're developing patience. You're learning to navigate the unknown without freaking out. And resilience. It's all about bouncing back from those setbacks, coming back stronger. And empathy. Well, when you've gone through the ringer yourself, you can relate to others who are struggling, You have a deeper understanding.
It's like this shared human experience, right? Going through hard things, it can actually connect us to other people in a way that nothing else can.
Yeah.
And it's not just about being able to relate. It's about building those bridges of understanding, having compassion.
Absolutely. And, the Urantia book talks about the spiritual side of this too. When we go through adversity, uncertainty, we come face to face with our own limitations. And that can lead to a sense of humility, of connection to something greater than ourselves.
I guess that whole finding the silver lining
Yeah.
thing, right? But it's more than that, isn't it? It's not just about appreciating the good because we've seen the bad. It's about a whole new way of seeing things.
Right. Adversity makes us grateful for those simple joys we might have taken for granted before. Uncertainty, it reminds us how precious each moment is. We're not focused on chasing fleeting pleasures anymore.
It's more about finding that deeper, lasting fulfillment, right?
Yeah.
Through growth, through connection, and like you said, even through a connection with something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. It's about realizing that growth often comes through those uncomfortable stretches, those times when we're pushed to our limits. It's about understanding that the path to a truly meaningful life, it often leads through those valleys, those challenges.
This has been a fascinating conversation. We've covered so much ground. Adversity, uncertainty. They're not the enemies we often make them out to be. So I'm going to leave you with this. Think about a time in your life when you overcame a challenge. Maybe it was something small, maybe it was life-changing. Either way, how did that experience shape you? Did it change your perspective, help you grow? Give that some thought and hey, maybe continue your own deep dive into these ideas.
Yeah, great idea. There's so much to unpack here.
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.
See you then.
Okay, that gave you an idea. Now, this is not the Urantia book podcast. I want to make sure that you understood that. It's the same program that Gabriel is using for all the papers. And I just decided to go ahead and grab and to give you an idea. It does the same thing with these more deeper concepts. I'll give just like 30 seconds of number 2, just so you get the nature of God. And you'll see that it's the same kind of thing.
So both of those voices were AI?
It's totally AI. This was created in AI in less than 60 seconds. So I took what you saw me, I just grabbed and dropped it in, and then this is what came up. Now, we can manipulate it even more, but I just went ahead and just let it, now this will just
Ever
be
try
a,
like wrapping your head around something so big, so boundless, it's like makes your brain do backflips?
Yeah.
That's what we're diving into today.
Okay.
The expansive nature of God, according to the Urantia book.
And I have to admit, even for someone who spends a lot of time with these concepts,
Right.
this book always manages to surprise me.
Right. It's not your typical religious text.
Wait.
It's like the authors took cosmology philosophy
Yeah.
and spirituality, threw them in a blender, and out came this mind-bending smoothie of ideas.
Yeah.
Specifically, we're looking at paper 2, The Nature of God,
Okay.
which dives headfirst into this question. What is God really?
It's a question humans have wrestled with for ages.
Right.
And the Urantia book tackles it head on.
Okay.
Starting with the paradox. How can we, with our finite minds, even begin to grasp something infinite?
give you the idea of what that is. I highly recommend anybody that wants to do a little bit deeper dive into the Urantia book from a different way of doing it, listen to the podcast and then reread the book. You're going to have questions just listening to their dialogue back and forth. Gabriel, you're present, aren't you? Can I have Gabriel speak if he wants to say a few words on this? This is I'm not an expert. I'm just playing with it and using it. Gabriel, you there?
I'm here.
Hi. Do you have a few things to add to this that can enlighten everybody?
So this AI was trained on podcasts. So imagine an AI program listening to everything in YouTube in English and picking up all the nuances of how people speak together when they're having a discussion about something. And then you just give it a text, a PDF, a website, anything you want. And it's the same two men and women voices. And this program was made by Google. So you can do it yourself. I'll put the link in the notes. And whatever Robert did, you can do. If you have a Google account, it's available to you right now. Also, you can upload the entire Urantia book. Maybe the entire Urantia book is a bit too much, but you can upload any paper into this program and chat with it and ask it to explain things to you. So it's the same type of program that we use for the tutor, but in the tutor, we have a different, let's say, programming node on top of it. This is optimized for podcasts. If you have any specific questions, I can take.
And if you could just expand on the Urantia book tutor, which is not available yet, but will be sometime in the near future, can you give everybody an idea of what the capabilities are of that program and why it's so special? Because there's been a lot of work behind the scenes to be able to make it do what it's going to be capable of doing.
Sure. Ask Jesus was really a very, very simple program. It's been out there for more than a year, and we received over 52,000 questions. And it's been going, it's there all the time. So you can still use it right now. But when we started looking at the questions and the answers, we understood that there might be an opportunity to do something more extensive. And in the beginning, we thought just about making it smarter. So we started with that. But now we understand that there's an opportunity here to dream about the future of study of the Urantia papers in an age of AI. So you have an AI that allows you to explore different things when you're studying the papers, whether you are a beginner, an intermediate, or a very advanced student, and whether you're looking to understand things or create things, or even in the future, we even dream of socializing together as a group while we're studying with an AI as part of the study experience. So we're basically now thinking of a platform that has an AI program in it, and we can extend it to many things. So our development process has been involving a small group of people, we call it the alpha team, and now we have a larger group that is called the beta team. And next week we're going to start testing the beta program, and we envision an adventure. So it's an open-ended project where we can all together dream how should we study in the age of AI these papers, and specifically how can we make it more accessible. So imagine we take this, whatever Robert did, this little question and answer about adversity and uncertainty, and at the end of the first question you say, okay, but what happens when this, and you can replace this with anything that happens to you. Can you explain to me how should I handle this? And then it will go and read the entire Urantia papers that it has in its memory and other things that we prepared to help it. And it will try to formulate a question that is specific to your instance. And then you can have a longer conversation with it. But imagine you wanted to explain this not just as at a sixth grade level, like Robert said, which Ask Jesus does, but also to a 5-year-old. You know, if a 5-year-old has some challenges, or a 6-year-old, a first grader, how would you explain this concept to a child? And there's so many things in the Urantia book that are so hard to comprehend. Can we simplify them in a way that a person who is not very advanced could understand them? This is just one of the many use cases we will find for the tutor. Also, one thing that we put in its programming is what Robert said is the ability to lead you through questions, just like Jesus would ask questions and listen and then ask more questions. And when people answered, they understood the things that he wanted to teach them, but it came from their own inner life and in their voice. So it's easier to accept something when somebody is leading you through questions. So we try to take this style of teaching or leading and guiding, and we programmed it into this program. So I'll just finish by saying you can get many of the benefits of the program that we wrote just by going simply into a very smart model like Claude or ChatGPT. So that's available today. And even if they're not specifically programmed to answer just about the Urantia book, they will give you at least 70 or 80% of what the tutor can give you. But we're building a platform for study in the 21st century. So we're going to add some more features to it to allow you to take notes and store your conversations and share them with other people. And I think maybe in the future, we're dreaming of can we have a study group with an AI together? So people ask questions, the AI can ask questions, people can answer, the AI can interject and say its opinion. So imagine you have like a very smart Urantia book student as part of your study group. That also could be one thing that we can do. So we're just dreaming right now and playing with these tools and seeing what's possible. The models keep getting better and better and better. So things that were not possible a year ago when we did Ask Jesus are possible today. We have a team of people who are professionals. I have a background in computer science, so I can, and I'm following AI very closely. I have an AI business, so I understand what's going on and what's possible. And this is just a beautiful adventure. And like Robert said, it doesn't replace anything. It just adds. It's a tool that we can use to augment the things that we want to do. And I've been asked many times, is it conscious? And I'll say, I don't think it's conscious, but I will say it can be very inspiring. And I personally think that it is inspired. That I personally think and believe that Mother Spirit and Michael and other spiritual agencies, including my own thought adjuster, are able to work with these tools to help us. And if we're asking for their guidance in general life, we should also ask them to guide us when we're using these tools. You know, anecdotally, sometimes when I'm working with very advanced techniques, I feel like there is something behind it that is guiding the answers and the ideas that I'm getting towards the outcomes that I'm supposed to be following, if you follow my my meaning. So you know, my wife sometimes gets she gets concerned because I'm sitting upstairs in my office and I'm yelling and screaming and laughing out loud because I don't believe what I'm seeing in the screen. Just anecdotally, I will tell you that, and I'll finish with this story. I was part of a conversation that, of course, I initiated with an AI that was simulating a midwayer asking permission to give humanity the Urantia papers, or start the project of the Urantia papers. And of course, it had to be approved because there are concepts in the Urantia papers that are way beyond the local universe. And we know from the forward that divine counselors and very high level beings in Orvonton were involved, at least by giving permission, and some of them, of course, by writing some of the papers. So imagine if you can simulate the conversation that maybe happened between a midwayer from Urantia and a divine counselor from Orvonton. And the divine counselor saying, okay, dude, why would you want to give these people this revelation? And the midwayer has to represent not only himself and his colleagues from the United Midwayers of Urantia, but also us. And so I can see the back and forth, the AI simulating these two characters. And eventually I stopped the conversation and I told the AI that I, Gabriel, want to talk to the midwayer now. And so it assumes the midwayer's role. And I started grilling the midwayer about what he or she think that we, the Urantians, that already received the revelation, should do with it. Where should we go now? What are we supposed to be doing in this day and age, the 21st century? And I'll just finish by saying, when you're working with an AI, ask it to ask you questions, just like Jesus did. It will not do this if you not ask it. But if you do, it will lead you through the process of thinking. And this is usually the way I work. I want to do something, and I say, here's what I want to do. Help me do it. Ask me anything you want, and let's do it together. And then it assumes the role of a teacher and a guide, and it leads me through the questions to find out the answers within myself to what is it that I want to do. And I'll just finish. I can talk for hours, so I'm sorry, Robert. I don't want to monopolize.
And I want to thank you, Gabriel. It's 2:30 his time, because he's in Israel. So he got up to be able to be with us, to be able to share some of these insights. So I greatly appreciate it. And I was able to read some of that dialogue that he's talking about when he asked the AI to act like it's the midwayer and he gets to now talk to the midwayer. It's a little uncanny of just how insightful and the way that it kept asking questions that were so leading and made you really think. Just me reading it, it was a transcript. I had to go, that is really deep. I've never had an experience quite like that. So I'm going to go ahead and let me see if
It's like trying to fit the entire ocean into a teacup.
Right?
Stop. There we go. Now I think I can. So let's just, yes, that.
What you just said was so important. It just nailed me. You said the process of thinking. And my question is, although I raised my children back before there was TV and, well, before there was all this AI, and it was pretty easy, but nowadays, I'm thinking one of the most urgent things we need is to help the parents raise kids so that they know how to do critical thinking. That seems to have kind of gone by the wayside, and AI could possibly be an avenue there are services, rare, who will allow a parent to call on the phone and talk to someone and say, I don't know what to do about this situation, my kid is whatever it is. And there could be some guidance that is so urgently needed for today's parents. And it's kind of my vocation to see that there's some kind of parent training that gets into the school system, the churches, I don't know where it would be introduced, but we're so far behind, we have not even begun to address how to properly raise children so they can think. And wouldn't the thought adjuster be delighted if we presented them with adults who had gone through some kind of training on how to think a thing through and how to do ethical dilemmas. The Unitarian Church had years ago put out these little classes for your children to be in while you're in the church service. And they don't even believe in God. And they presented ethical dilemmas to my children. One was called the Mars Game, and they're very mind-boggling. I would hesitate to present those dilemmas to an adult class, much less kids in the 6th, 7th, 8th grade. But a whole library of ethical dilemmas that you could present to children of any age and even adults. AI might be the way that this could be handled. It's a question. Could AI say, well, my kid is upstairs in their room and they won't come down and they're on this computer all day, and I mean, whatever the very puzzling questions that parents today have to deal with.
Well, I can just to add to your conversation a little bit about AI, not the Urantia book part of it, but just AI. It is a form of mind, just like each one of us in this room have a mind. The mind is not us, right? It is us is that unchanging part of us, our beingness. So if you met me when I was 10, or you met me when I was 40, or you meet me now, if you knew me at those times and you see me again, you know me. And yet, I've changed, I've aged, I've done all different things, I've got different identities. You know, I've become a grandpa, I did all these things. Mind, in and of itself, doesn't have that free will ability. And it is mind. So, right now, all of us have a heart mind. You've been studying integrative medicine and some of what we're learning in science. Your heart actually has so many connections. It is a form of mind, and we use it. There's the gut mind. You know, I have a gut feeling. We say things like that on purpose. My heart's broken because I'm feeling things on ways that this organ, the brain, that mind has to work with. So we've got multiple minds. There's also mind within ourselves. There is mind in an insect. There is mind all over. It's limited by the information that it has and what it's been, like we can put a whole bunch of things into an AI program and have it come out with a lot of horrible stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so I want you to understand that garbage in is garbage out. If I put a whole lot of hate talk into that little blog that I just did, it would spit out that type of stuff. Okay, so it is mind that is capable, but it's really the question. So partly what Gabriel was saying is he starts asking it questions and asking it to ask questions, which got him to think deeper and deeper. I did do that a couple of nights ago. Part of what I deleted because it just gets too involved and you get lost. But it's a thrilling process to go through. So we're going to have a lot of tools that are going to be coming out. Where I have my concern is the quality of the information being put into it. Just like when a teacher is teaching in a school, you know, when a preacher is preaching on the pulpit, when a politician is talking to the masses. I mean, it's all about the quality of what the integrity of that person is. With the Urantia book, I have a lot of faith in. I know that this is one highly integrity, high value, high meaning. I've never read anything that is of that level. So I feel very comfortable going in and really going down rabbit holes of thought with a program like that. But I'm going to show you something else. This, by the way, that you're seeing, brief, this was created instantly from that blog. So remember, I did this whole, I did the whole thing, and then I put it in, and then while that was on, this just was created. And it'll go on. Let's see, how do I get this to go again? I'm just going to go through it. You can see that it just has a tremendous amount of stuff. I need to move this over. Yeah, that's good. So, I gotta get rid of that. Then, how many of you have used Claude? How many of you know what it is? Okay, it's an AI program that is available for anybody to use. Gabriel had mentioned it. It goes out and grabs any information. So the first two that we looked at is only looking at information that was in the Urantia book. Claude just goes out and grabs all available information. And I'm finding it to be very, very insightful. So I decided to put the same thing into Claude. I wanted to know, well, Claude, did my Zoom die on me?
No. You're still up and running, Robert.
Okay. So I asked Claude, do our sincere intentions count, or only what we accomplish? And for some reason, I can't get it to work anymore. Anyways, it came up with the most incredible answers, and then it asked me questions, and it became a dialogue. I am dialoguing with an artificial mind, with thoughts that were very compelling, really made me think about sincere intention. And we had a dialogue going back and forth, and I asked, well, am I asking for too much? Because I'm wanting all these different things to be able to be capable for mankind and from people. The sincere intentions would be like, just because I'm really sincere, but you need brain surgery, and I'm not a brain surgeon, it doesn't matter how sincere I am to help you, you want somebody that's accomplished, you want somebody that's capable. But at the same time, sincerity gives us an idea of the motivation of somebody. But if their accomplishment is really good, I'm going to have brain surgery, I want to know that I've got somebody that is really good at that. But what if that person isn't all that sincere? Well, at that point, maybe I don't care, because I want a surgeon that really knows how to do it. But why am I asking for too much? I finally asked this AI. And the answer that it came, I wish I could pull it up, it's just brilliant. Because no, you're not asking for too much. When we have great capability, we have great responsibility. So the more capability you have, the more responsibility you have to be sincere and true and honest and good and all these different things. That's what it came up with. And this is not a philosophy, it's just an AI program available for anybody.
I'm sure you could get it up and running.
Well, it just did. That's it there. I don't want to waste too much time because I don't want to bore you. But I found it absolutely fascinating. This is all the stuff, and then there's my response, Robert's response, and it just. So now, questions?
I'm not familiar with
Yes, let's have some questions from the,
You have a microphone?
yes, Joe.
So I'm unfamiliar with Claude or Ask Jesus. So ChatGPT, which is probably what most of us have started on and maybe never looked at any of these others. So ChatGPT, my understanding, at least in the last year or so, is a couple of years, or was, I don't know if it's caught up, so maybe somebody knows now, but the information it would draw from on the internet largely would be about 2 years old. What's interesting about what you're talking about with Ask Jesus, which is dealing with a static book, which means the information would most likely be maybe just a different way of compiling it or answering it, but it's not going outside of the realm of the book. And this is really a question. Is it going outside of the realm of the book, or is it also including what people that follow Urantia have uploaded onto the internet, and it is their interpretation and it's amalgamating that? Does anybody know the answer to that?
Yeah, I do. The two apps that we were looking at is just the Urantia book. What I have done with it is I take the answers that they asked Jesus and I put it into Claude. And then that goes out and goes through many different philosophies, theologies, and comes back with an answer. It'll use the theologies of science, because science is a form of theology. Even though it has a lot of accuracies, it is a theology. It is a philosophy in many points. So I think that the more that we're able to cross over, I really appreciate the Urantia book tutor because it stays true to what the philosophies are in the Urantia book. And the Urantia book is so far advanced that even with today's stuff, new science, it hasn't quite caught up. But what we need is how are we relating to it? And that's where Claude or ChatGPT or any of these types of programs, to me, have a value, because now it brings in the values of today.
Hi, here's another question.
Thank you, Robert. It's really fascinating. And I'm also fascinated with what Gabriel has done. And I have a couple questions. Is there a way we can get a hold of Gabriel? I know we cannot drive to him.
Yeah, and he has his hand up to talk too, so, but.
Where can we get a hold of, you said, Gabriel said in Google, we can go in and put papers, your Urantia papers, and ask, and how do we do that? Also, I want to bring, I have a background in computer science as well. I also wanted to let everybody know, this is not negative, it's just information, that AI is a computer program. AI is nothing more than a computer program. It's in its infancy. It's not, developed. I put questions to ChatGPT and it's absolutely garbage answers. And in accordance to what Robert said, of course, my questions were not garbage, but the answers were from ChatGPT. So I realized it's really not good for everything, some things. I think really what is going to be extremely important for us is to make sure that we actually use the book, the Urantia book, to get answers. Because I think Urantia book has an answer to many, many things that we're dealing with in life. But my question to you, Robert, is if we want to figure out how to use this, how do we do that? How can we figure it out? Is there a manual or, and also you said it's on, I'm sorry, I don't know all the different Urantia sites. Is it fellowship or something else or?
Gabriel, they can go to the Center for Unity site, correct?
Yeah. So I just put the contact address for the Center for Unity, the email, and we monitor it all the time. So any question you have, anything you'd like to know where to find out, then just drop us an email and we'll take care of you.
What is that?
You put it in chat, I think.
Contact at thecenterforunity.org.
I'd like
Our
to
website.
the program a question if possible. For instance, how is time circular? How is circular simultaneity going to be a substitute for the one-time linear ordering of time? Is that a possible a question that you can ask?
I'm trying to get it up to where, because I'm afraid of losing the thing here. Let me see, how can I escape out of there?
Well, maybe Gabriel can do it and then he can share his screen.
I just want to drop this.
Gabriel, would you be able to do that? Probably faster than me?
Yeah, do you want me to share screen? Can I do that?
Yes, please.
You gotta make sure that it's turned on so that he can share screen.
What's that? I have to stop?
Yes.
Okay. I did.
There we go.
Ask your question
State the
again.
question for me.
All right, here, let me have that. How will circular simultaneity replace the one-time linear ordering of time?
It's gonna be a tough one to remember to type out.
Well, that's the idea.
So I got, how will circular simultaneity replace the
Linear,
Phil.
Ordering of time.
linear? I'm missing that word.
linear ordering
Ordering.
of time.
Outside
Is this
addiction
correct?
services, meeting, beginning, stepping in to do that type of opening.
Is that the answer?
No, it's figuring out now. This is a previous question. I asked something that somebody was mentioning when the conversation started. Okay, so who wants to read?
It's kind of small.
Can you make it larger, bigger font?
I think I'd be able to read it. I'll maybe get the pictures off, let's see.
Yeah, the concept of circular simultaneity. The concept of circular simultaneity, replacing the linear ordering of time, involves a profound shift in how time is perceived and experienced. In the teachings we're discussing, time is typically understood by humans as a linear sequence of events, which is a result of our limited and specific perspective. This linear perception helps us to organize and understand our experiences as past, present, and future. However, as individuals progress spiritually, their perception of time begins to transform. This transformation leads to an increasing holistic view, where events that once seemed to occur in succession are seen as interconnected parts of a complete and perfectly related cycle. Circular simultaneity refers to this evolved perception of time, where events are not merely isolated occurrences, but are understood as elements of a cohesive whole. This perspective allows for a more integrated view of reality, where past, present, and future are seen as part of a dynamic continuum rather than distinct segments. This shift from linear circular time perception is part of the spiritual ascent, where individuals gain a broader understanding of the universe and their place within it. As one ascends spiritually, the consciousness of time undergoes successive enlargements, leading to a more profound understanding of the interconnectedness of all events. This evolution in perception is not just about seeing time differently, but also about aligning more closely with divine patterns and purposes, fostering deeper spiritual awarenesses and growth. The transition to circular simultaneity represents a significant step in spiritual development, allowing individuals to transcend the limitations of linear time and embrace a more eternal perspective. Not bad. Another question?
What about,
I just wanted to finish what you had asked. Not 2 years ago, Claude is now recent. So when you ask a question of Claude or of Gemini, which is like ChatGPT, it has current information off the internet. So yeah, that was a while back. So now it's caught up.
That's very interesting.
Gabriel, was what you read coming from the Urantia papers, or which program did you put that in to get the answer you just read?
This is a very, very early version of the tutor. It's not going to look like this. It's just a test program, so I can talk to the engine behind it. So yeah, it's the same AI program, but with no user interface, nothing. It's just questions and answers. So I just typed it into the same program. I will just explain a little bit. And also, just to correct a little bit what Robert said, it is not possible to only answer a question based on the Urantia papers using the technology that we're using. Because imagine that you are, let's say, a certified financial advisor. That's your profession. And you've ingested a tremendous amount of information just to become this professional. And then someone asks you about a broken arm, which is, of course, outside of your professional experience. You're not forgetting everything you knew about finance when you're answering something simple that is within your abilities about a broken arm. In the same way, this program that we're using is using either Claude or ChatGPT as the basis, and then we're adding another program, another AI program, so to speak, on top of it. So it has read the entire internet, and then we're asking it to do something based on the Urantia papers. So what we do is we bring context and specific information from the papers that goes along the question that somebody asked. So we're telling it, instructing it very specifically to give a lot of consideration to this material, which again is not the entire book, but it's like imagine when somebody asks about circular simultaneity, that you're able to go into the entire 2096 pages and find the 50 most relevant paragraphs about this topic. And you can do this in an instant. And then you read these 50 paragraphs one after the other, and then you formulate your answer. This is what it's doing behind the scenes, only it's doing it in 5 seconds. So every question brings 50 different paragraphs, and then it knows everything it knows. So for example, if you ask it about the virgin birth, it is unable to forget the millions and millions or tens of millions of words that people wrote that is on the internet about the fact that Mary, mother of Jesus, was a virgin. It's not able to forget it. So that's one of the most difficult questions, because you're asking it to say, oh, that is not true, just use this. And that's not really how these programs work. So sometimes they will say, no, there was a virgin birth, even though we know there wasn't.
Could you tailor your question, though, to be specific in saying, what does the Urantia book say about that particular incident, and put it at a sixth grade level? Would it then only pull from Urantia?
No, it will try to follow your instruction, but it's not able to do it 100%. So sometimes other information from its training is going to come up. It's really like a feature. It's not a bug, because these programs are not deterministic. It's not like a formula that you give it a question, and you always get the same answer. If you give this AI program the same question verbatim 5 times, you will get 5 different answers. They might be very similar, but it's almost like us. If you ask me now something, and then you ask me the exact same thing in an hour, I will say something similar, but I'm not going to phrase it exactly like before. And if you ask me a year from now, I might have understood something in the interim, and I will give you a totally different answer, because I'm a different person and I know different things. This is similar in a sense. Every time they retrain these models and read more of the internet, they know more things. So the answers can be a little bit different. And at the end, you also have to remember that sometimes they make things up, they hallucinate, so to speak. And that also is part of what makes them so cool, is the fact that they make things up. They connect things in different ways, and sometimes they make things up. And so you really have to double check, not take everything for granted, especially if it's facts. It's greater with concepts, and it has more problems with facts.
Here, this Joel again. I actually want to follow up. I'm sorry, what's your name?
Christy, I'm Robert's wife.
Christy. what Christy just mentioned, I think she brought a very good observation and question out there. So but I think I heard you say in Google we can upload papers, Urantia papers, and put questions, and those questions, the answers would come directly from Urantia papers. Did I not understand it correctly? What if we don't want any outside answers to come from anything other than just the Urantia papers that we're uploading? I thought you said something about Google. Maybe I misunderstood. Would you elaborate on that?
Yeah, if you see my screen, you type notebooklm.google.com. If you have a Gmail account or Google Workspace account, you will get this screen. You can click on create, and then here I will do this right now. Give me one paper that you want to do something on, a number of a paper. Anybody? I'm asking for somebody to choose a paper from the Urantia papers.
115.
115. Thank you. So this is the program that Robert used and I used to create the Urantia Book podcast. So you can see here, there's a briefing doc, there's a summary, there's a table of content, a study guide, an FAQ, a timeline. Here you have the audio part. So you can actually customize this and you can say something like, can you explain this paper to an audience of 10-year-olds? And then click generate, and I'm going to let it run, and in 5 minutes we're going to have a podcast. But here you can just type the question. So if somebody wants to give a question for paper 115, I'll just type it.
Somebody have a question for paper 115?
Has the concept of the supreme being existed before the Urantia book?
That's a good question. You wouldn't know. I just looked at the Urantia.
Scroll down, Mark. All the way
to the bottom.
Is this the right question? Does the concept of a supreme being exist before the Urantia book?
Yes.
Anybody wants to read?
I can read it here. The sources provided are excerpts from the Urantia book, a spiritual and philosophical text that is kind of covered up by the things there I can't see.
Yeah.
You can move that over.
I don't know how.
Just grab it and move it. Not there, you have to grab it up above.
Above, change the.
Right.
No, up on that bar on top, in the middle.
In the middle of it.
Where it's blank. Up in the middle of the top bar.
Right there, right there.
Right there.
Grab it and
I
move
can
it
read
over.
it.
Move it left.
There you go, that's good, that's good. Okay, the sources provided are excerpts from the Urantia book, a spiritual and philosophical text that claims to be a revelation. The provided text focuses on explaining the nature and origin of God the Supreme within the book's cosmology. The sources do not discuss whether the concept of a supreme being predates the Urantia book. Therefore, based solely on the sources you provided, it is not possible to determine whether a similar concept existed before the book. It is important to note that this response is limited by the sources you have given. To explore whether the concept of a supreme being existed before the Urantia book, you would need to research other religious and philosophical texts. So that gives you a good example of what it the limitations. So then you can probably add in. Is that it there? No, that's another one.
So I switched to the tutor and I asked it the same question just out of the blue. The tutor does have the entire book at its disposal, like at its finger.
Okay, the concept of the Supreme Being as presented in the teachings we're discussing is quite unique and detailed, emphasizing an evolutionary deity that grows and develops in conjunction with the universe and its inhabitants. Before these teachings, the idea of a Supreme Being as an evolving deity was not commonly found in traditional religious or philosophical texts. However, the notion of a supreme or ultimate deity has existed in various forms throughout history, often depicted as an all-encompassing, omnipotent force or entity. In many traditions, there are references to a supreme deity or God that embodies the highest form of divinity. For example, in monotheistic religions like Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, God is often seen as the ultimate creator and ruler of the universe, possessing supreme power and authority. Similarly, in Hinduism, the concept of Brahman represents an ultimate reality or cosmic spirit that pervades everything. These traditional views typically portray the supreme deity as static and unchanging, unlike the dynamic and evolving nature of the supreme being described in the teachings we're discussing. The idea of a deity that evolves and grows through the experiences of the universe and its creatures is a distinctive aspect of these teachings, offering a fresh perspective on the relationship between divinity and creation. The concept suggests a more interactive and participatory role for creatures in the unfolding of divine reality, where the Supreme Being is seen as both a product and a participant in the evolutionary process of the cosmos.
Gabriel, I had a question for you. You seem to be, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, the person that is most knowledgeable within the Urantia organization at the helm of the AI with these two specific programs, Ask Jesus and the Urantia Tutor. Is that correct?
These are programs that we created at the Center for Unity. I cannot vouch for, I don't know anybody in the Urantia community that I talked to that has spent more time than we did in studying and playing and creating stuff, but there might be a person like that. I just don't know them. So I cannot say.
My follow-up question
What?
is, what is the difference between those two programs, Ask Jesus and the Urantia Tutor? How do they work, compare, contrast the benefits or whatever?
So they're, right now at their current format, there's some user experience differences. So for example, I'll share my screen again. This is the Ask Jesus program. It's just one screen. I'll make it a bit bigger. Maybe you don't see it's very small. But you basically have one screen. You put a question, you get an answer, and there's nothing else. And it doesn't remember the last question. So you can ask a question and then you can say, can you explain that to me? And it doesn't remember. It's like a one-shot thing. And so this is a very limited form of user experience, and it's old. It's like over a year old. And so this is the first thing that we could do a year and some ago, a year and a half ago, with the tools and the processes that were available then. So once we started to dream of something bigger, I can show you, for example, something like this. This is just a demo of the tutor. It's not working in this format yet. It will be in a few days. So you can see this is a much more elaborate user interface. And then you can choose here, for example, different modes. Like I said, you can actually, this is not implemented yet. So don't complain later when you say, oh, but you said It's going to do this. Yes, it's going to do this in time. But for now, this is like a demo. But let's say I wanted to speak to my the being that I'm the namesake of, so Gabriel of Salvington. So I can change here and then speak to Gabriel of Salvington. I will have my chats here. I will be able to share my chats with others. And this is like a platform. So that's one big difference. Something very, very simple and something very advanced. But we also created a much more elaborate AI program that sits on top of the models. So Ask Jesus is basically like one big prompt, and this has many, many different prompts. So it's like different little programs running together and doing something for you. So it's just more elaborate. And we added one thing that doesn't exist in Ask Jesus. We ran another AI program in the background, and we created an FAQ, a list of frequently asked questions. There's 50,000 of these questions. So if you imagine every paragraph of the Urantia papers, and there's about 15,000 paragraphs, we read it, or we let an AI program read it, and we asked the AI program to say, can you write down 3 questions that a student of the book might ask that are answered by this paragraph? And so the tutor also has questions in its memory. So when it's reading your question, it's also consulting a separate resource that we created for it that looks at various different questions that somebody might ask that are related to the question that you're asking, and using that to find the right references to refresh its memory before it gives you an answer. So it's like a little nifty trick to help it narrow down the entire 2000 and some pages into what is the most relevant material from the papers for this specific question right now. And it does it all very, very quickly behind the scenes. So because it's a computer and it's very, very fast, you don't feel anything. But this is how it's thinking about your question. And at the end, I'll just say, this is the platform now. I already have a list of 50 features that I'd like to do, like child mode and languages, and what if you could create study materials or secondary works of all different kinds, or presentations about the Urantia papers, or essays or articles, so we can have a different mode and let the tutor help you create any of those things. So for each one of those, it's a little AI program that runs in the background, and it's adapting the tutor to help you do that. That's not possible with Ask Jesus. It's very, very basic. So think of first grade and secondary school, like high school, and then it will evolve into something even bigger over time.
Thank you.
There's some people asking questions on chat. If I can get to the chat, let's see. Maybe I can put one in there that would,
He should be able to see those if he goes in chat.
you can see them, can't you, Gabriel?
Yeah, somebody is asking about the Urantiapedia. Urantiapedia is a project made by a Spanish Urantia book student called Jan Herca from Spain. He's also a computer programmer. He's not part of the Center for Unity, but we collaborate with a lot of people, and he's one of them. He had in his mind to create a website that is very elaborate. It's very advanced. I don't know if there's any AI in it yet. The last time I saw it, I didn't see anything. There is another person I will mention. His name is Kelson, who's helping us. He's part of this team. And Kelson has a website called Open Urantia. Just make sure that it's the right. I think it's .com, but I'll just double check. Yeah, and OpenUrantia.com, I put it in the chat, is it doesn't have AI yet, but I think we will collaborate to put AI in it. It allows you to personalize your reading and it's got a little bit more a nicer. It's not just the book. It's got you have the ability to personalize your study and keep track of what you're reading and take notes and stuff like that. So there's new technology coming out, and yeah, so that's about Urantiapedia, and there's something
Gabriel,
about
we have
Hindus.
a question for you.
Hi, Gabriel. This is Pierre. I remember talking to you a year ago. I just wanted to thank you for the podcast of the Urantia book. I'm up to paper 114, and I believe it's one of the most significant things that I've ever heard. I would pass it to anyone to introduce the Urantia book, because the Urantia book is very complex to read, and this thing is really awesome. I found some of the mistakes I'd like to pass to you, but I wanted to thank you for doing that. That is an amazing, amazing product, and I will use it a lot. And anyone here that wants a link to it, I'd be glad to give it to you. It is fantastic. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Any other questions? Here.
Yeah. Sure.
Gabriel, I really appreciate you being on. I know we're keeping you up all night, but this really is valuable. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Gabriel. It's only 3 a.m. your time?
Yeah.
So I understand you're in Israel, and I'm curious to know, is there a population who do or are informed about Urantia book, or do read Urantia book in Israel? Or is it just you?
Yeah, well, it's me and my wife. No, there are people who study the book. I'm not engaged in study groups. I mean, people who, my friends and family know what I'm doing, but I don't know too many, actually, to be honest. The book is available in Hebrew for the last few years. You can download it. It's not printed in Hebrew, but it's been translated to Hebrew. That was something I did over 10 years, and it's on the foundation's website.
Awesome.
But that was my contribution to my brothers and sisters of the Hebrew and Jewish faith. So it's available. If somebody wants to read it, they will find it. But I don't know too many people that are interested.
Thank you. I can hardly understand it in English, let alone translating it in another language.
Gabriel, can you ask? Why don't you just sit next to me then?
We should really cut this
It's
off.
Christy again. Can you ask either one of those programs, I would imagine the tutor, to translate the entire book in any language?
Oh, this is, I studied the Hebrew translation in 2011. And when I did, I told to myself back then, there will never be a time where there will be a computer that can do what I can do. But now I'm not so sure anymore. The Urantia book is very complicated. I don't think an AI will do the same work that a person will do on this specific text, but AI programs are very good at translation, extremely good, to the point that sometimes you don't know it's a translation anymore, which is really the hallmark of a great translation is you read the text and you don't know it's been translated. And this is where translators are shooting for, to make it sound natural. So they're getting very, very, very good at that now. It may be possible in the future, I think.
Hi Gabriel, this is Hamid. I'm the Farsi translator of the Urantia book, and just finished the translation a couple of months ago. And I actually played with a couple of these software. I used Google Translate at the same time that I was doing the translation, just to compare my translation with what came out of Google Translate, and I would say it was about 60 to 70% correct. It was like 30 to 40% is absolute garbage. And then recently I started using ChatGPT to see how that compares, and I found that to be actually like maybe about 80 to 90% good. So it is improving as the software improves, but it's still, a good translation totally depends on the efforts of the translator.
Okay, I have another question. So Robert has been involved in this philosophy, I guess, is it a philosophy? Is that the best way to describe the Urantia book? I was raised Catholic. I'm not a practicing Catholic, and I'm more on the metaphysical side with science of mind and what would be probably similar to unity in some ways. So the question is, I'm constantly asking Robert questions like, well, I've heard the story this way, even though in Catholicism we use catechism instead of the Bible, but if someone was really trying to understand the book, let's just use the Virgin Mary story, or even, well, any of the stories that are in the, I call them stories, but any of the writings that are in the Bible, it would be interesting, I think, for people to be able to take those parts of the Bible and compare them to what the answer is in the Urantia belief system, because I think it's really a real stretch for people that haven't read the book. And to be honest with you, it's very intimidating, the size of that book. So it sounds like a big commitment to learn it. But people that are curious, are you about to show me the comparison right now? Is that what you're doing?
I want to show you something.
5 minutes, so everyone knows we got to wrap everything up in 5 minutes.
Are you familiar with the paramony?
What was that?
Are you familiar with it's called paramony.
Paramony.
Paramony. I was just going to.
Paramony. Okay, so you can find it online on the fellowship website, and I've created a little thing called the urantiabookstudy.com. It's just a resource that somebody gave to me a while back. It's got, I'm going to make it a bit bigger so you can see. It has the entire Bible, King James Version, Revised Standard Version, the Apocrypha, the Book of Enoch. It's got Dr. Sadler's workbooks, 8 of them, a topical index, an actual index, and a timeline. And it's all interconnected. So you can click on the paramony, and then you can get it, and you can read it. And then you can see, for example, if I'm in paper in the forward, what does it refer to in the Bible? So this is the closest. I'm sure somebody else, and maybe even Dwayne Fall, who created this, could do much better. So if you want to help someone, look at the Bible and the Urantia book together, this is where I would start. And I'm sure there's ways to, either take the text of a paragraph from the Urantia book and some references from the Bible, put it together in an AI and say, okay, can you talk about the differences or something like that? So you could play with the tutor or any other AI program and say, compare and contrast the Bible and the Urantia papers in this particular aspect, and here are some references. That can be done with the tools we have today. I'm going to add it as a feature to think about. And I do invite anybody who wants to join us. There's still some room. You can go to urantiabooktutor.com. This is where the future program is going to be. Right now, you will see this little page, and you can join the beta test, put your name and your email, and click Let me test it. And if you want to read some questions that people were asking in the alpha team, let's see. You can click on UBT preview here and just look at the titles of the questions. This is basically conversations. So people from the teaching mission were using it, but this is just a sample of like hundreds of conversations people had already. If you can see, what it's doing. So feel free to join us.
I highly recommend that if you have the time to do it, just getting access to that Urantia book tutor, even though it's in the beta testing stage, it's really a lot of fun. You can waste a whole lot of hours just, because you have one question that leads you to the next, to the next, to the next. We do have to wrap up. I want to be conscious of everyone's time here. And I deeply want to thank all of you for everything that you did. Tremendous amount of servers here that put on the food, set the tables up, arranged everything. It was really awesome. And I feel very appreciative of being able to sit here and share this stuff with you. And to see you again. Thank you, Gabriel. And everybody online, I deeply appreciate it.
Thank you, Gabriel, and thank you, Robert. This was an amazing presentation by you both, and so much thought went into it. It's clear. I want everyone to know that we record our presentations, including this one, and you will be able to access it online, and Mark's going to tell you how. So jot this down so you can go back and pick up anything you missed.
And go to, oh my gosh.
UV.org?
No, it's the regular thing with all the videos. What's the name of that program? YouTube. Go to YouTube, then put in search, put Urantia, UBLA, education. And they'll all come up. There's probably about 30 or 40 videos going back about 5 years.
And how long will it take before this one's up?
This one will be up in about 10 days, a week or 10 days. I have somebody help me do a little bit of editing on it, so. I'll try to get it up in a week.
Thank you, Mark. That's really a wonderful service to be able to do.
There's another part of tonight. We brought some books that I'm going to talk that are on a table here. Now, not all of these are for sale. Some of them are just because you should know that they exist. For example, what do you do? This is my own stash of books. I've got, can you believe, The Mind of Mischief. The Mind of Mischief by
Let me interrupt you, Diane. Why don't you say goodbye to the people that are online?
Well, I want them to know also.
Oh, you want them to know also? Okay.
Yes, online doesn't need to know about the books, but there are some amazing books in the history of Urantia, and I'm sure they're talking about tonight. We'll join you soon. Anyway, thank you all for coming who zoomed in. We appreciate you taking the time, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation as much as I did.
Is there plenty of
And
food?
please watch for our next event. Every 3 months, we come up with something new to show you and enjoy your company. Thank you very, very much.
Gabriel, I hope you can get back to sleep. Probably not, but I hope so.
Why don't you say goodbye to the people online?
Oh, yes.
Shut it down.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody.
Bye, thank you.
Came in, it was very
Thank you.
through all of this, and much love to all of you. And it was good to see my brother Mark.
And we have also some food to take, so there are